I've been a professional photographer since the late 1980s. In my career, I've had so many moments where I felt that I'm kind of stuck in a rut with my photography. I always get that feeling of not being able to move forward with my images. I get a sense of boredom when I'm out shooting, and I feel like I'm doing the same things over and over and over again without really going any further forward. And sometimes I'll get to the point where literally I'll look at all my photographs and hate every single one of them. So over the years, I've had to work out different ways, different strategies to get me out of that rut. Being in a rut is nothing more than a state of mind, and all we're trying to do is alter that state of mind, break a few habits, and try and get a different mindset going forward. Now, when I had my first major episode of being in a creative rut in the mid-1990s, I was shooting medium format. As a professional photographer, I shot medium format with a tripod and so on. I went and bought a 35mm film camera, and a lot of people told me it was a stupid thing to do. The quality wasn't as good as medium format and all this kind of stuff that people have an opinion on. But I bought this 35mm camera and I loaded it with black and white film and I went and shot with it. The change in camera equipment was so great, from tripod mounted medium format to handheld 35mm, that I was energized. My eye was looking at something different. I had to learn different ways of doing things, and it all came together to basically develop a style which I became known for. Then around 2001, I found myself in another creative rut. I started to use Leica rangefinder cameras. Again, this was a massive change in the type of gear that I was using. Because I had to learn how to retake photographs with a camera system that was completely at odds with what I'd already had previously, I was able to come out of that creative rut again and progress as a photographer. So if you are in this position where you are financially able to change your camera gear, don't change it for something like you've already got. Don't change it for the other manufacturer's version of what you already have. Change it for something completely different, something that will make you look at the world in a different way. These days, to shift digital camera systems is really quite an expensive thing to do. So rather than change the camera, what I'd be more likely to do now is just change the lens. Now again, if you're really stuck in a rut, go for a lens that's totally different to what you already use. I spent part of one summer just using a 135 just to break the habit that I'd got into with the 35mm. Now at the moment, Sarah's working on a long-term project which for the last 18 months has involved shooting a lot of photographs in a gym. Same subject, same environment, same lighting. And she was starting to get frustrated with her images just before Christmas because she was basically repeating the same thing over and over. So she took the Not Deluxe out, the 50mm Not Deluxe, set it at f1 and just started to take photographs. The Not Deluxe forced her to look at the subject in a different way, and it's pushed her on to what I think are better images. You know, it's added something really different to her photography. So changing lenses really does work. Now, the other thing that I always found useful when trying to get out of a creative rut was just to go somewhere else, somewhere unfamiliar to me to go and take photographs. Now, I've never subscribed to this idea that you should always go and shoot in your own backyard. I mean, yes, you can, and we do it all the time. I personally need to go and see something different to what's on my doorstep, you know? So I'll often go and visit a city because it's so different to the coast where I live. The different people, there's different light, there's different streets, the atmosphere is different, and all of this helps me to reset my brain again. Also, I try and make an effort to shoot at different times of the day. Shooting at night is a totally different kettle of fish to shooting in the daytime. And I find it's worth spending a few late evenings out with a camera just to see places which I'm familiar with different eyes. Now, I remember being in a massive rut around 2012 when I got a call asking me to go to the south of France to teach Don McCullen digital photography. So I spent a week on the streets with Don. I was editing and printing his work, and the digital capture side of things he picked up very quickly. So most of the week was spent with us just going out shooting together on the streets and talking about photography and life and having a good time. Now, after that trip, I completely changed the direction of my career, but more importantly, I changed my relationship to photography. Photography became less about making money and became more about making photographs. And that changed my life. Now, obviously, I know we can't all go out with someone like Don McCullen, but a lot of today's top photographers do run workshops. Rather than spend a ton of cash on new gear, maybe spending a few days with somebody you admire might just take you out of that rut, probably more so than a new camera will. Projects are a really good way of giving the brain something else to think about. Sarah has always done projects. She hardly ever gets stuck in a rut, so there is something in this. From Sarah's point of view, projects allow her to experience new things. They force her to think differently, and they're a fantastic way of keeping everything fresh and interesting within photography. Now, she's shot a lot of diverse things, everything from movie sets to race horses to dog shows, communities in retirement, agricultural shows, and as I mentioned earlier on in the video, she's in the middle of a long-term project with an elite female athlete. If you fancy doing this, do some research, find out about the subject that you want to go and photograph, find some contacts, speak to them in a way that you understand what it is that they do. You've really got to be into what they are into in order for them to accept you into doing the photography. Access is everything. Learning a new way of shooting is a great way of getting out of a rut. If you always bring the camera up to the eye on the street, shoot from the hip or vice versa. If you're a black and white photographer, go and shoot colour for a while, even if it's just for a couple of days. Even if you don't want to ever shoot colour again, it's a useful exercise. That instant, whoa, this is totally what I'm not used to kind of moment is what we're looking for. It's that moment that will push our brain out of its stasis and move it forward. Shoot some film if you have the means to do so. You know, if you spent years shooting digital, film brings a whole bunch of new challenges which can really make you think. Shooting different genres is also a great way of getting out of a rut. When I came back from France, I bought some lights, built a little studio, and shot black and white portraits and nudes for a year, just to do something totally different to what I was normally shooting. Now, we have a lot of books, and I think books and exhibitions are one of the best ways of getting the eye interested in something a little bit different to what you normally look at. I'm predominantly a black and white photographer, but the vast majority of my recent book purchases have all been from colour photographers. Colour is refreshing to my eye. Seeing somebody like Harry Griart's work gives me that inspiration to go and take pictures with a camera, even though I literally have no desire to be a colour street photographer. Now, it's the same with exhibitions. The best exhibition I ever went to was the Suffering of Light exhibition in Brussels by Alex Webb. Again, it was a colour photographer, and it was just absolutely stunning. Now, if I'd been a colour photographer for as long as I've been a black and white photographer, it may not have had the same effect. For me, it just showed how looking at something which you don't normally look at really inspires you to go and take photographs. Now, with social media, there's always this fear of changing something which might affect audience engagement. So if we get a photograph that does really well on Instagram, for example, and gets a lot of shares and a lot of likes and a lot of comments, the temptation to try and replicate that photograph and then keep repeating it is huge. And you can see this in some of the more popular street photography accounts on Instagram. They consist of basically the same type of photograph. Now, I've always said that social media is great for photography, but it's absolutely terrible for photographers. Now, for me, you've always got to take the audience out of the equation when taking photographs. Otherwise, you can never move forward. You'll always be stuck thinking about the audience when you press the shutter. Disconnecting the audience from my work has always helped me to move forward. I'd rather do something with my photography that's personal to me and expresses my creativity, rather than be dictated to by what is often a very fickle audience. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, and we'd love to see you subscribe to the channel. And if there's anything that you like to do that gets you out of a creative rut, let me know in the comments below. I'd be fascinated to know what people actually do. And until the next time, take care.